Hey, this is Ryder here. I was a stuntman in the Warriors, and you are listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the movie raid. Tonight's victim is actor and stuntman Ryder. Has done the 1979 The Warriors. Hello.
Hello.
What have been going on, man? I know you've been promoting a lot with your book that has came out less than 2 months or less ago, and it's also, I believe, it's on Amazon as well as your purplefury.net site, right?
That's right, exactly. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, and then also at purplefury.net.
And this is basically like tell from your perspective view of your experiences within that, more than just portraying the characters in that time. Was that something more valued in that time era as far as credibility goes? Did that help you at all, or was that just one of those things like you hit or miss?
Yeah, it was more hit or miss. I started out as a production assistant, and within a couple days I got bumped up to a location scout. So I spent the first few weeks of the movie running all around New York City, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, looking for locations for the Warriors. And that in itself was a kind of a crazy experience. I've talked about a few of the things in the book. But then a stuntman got hurt, one of the baseball Furies, and the director, Walter Hill, pulled me aside one night and said, "Hey, I want to put you in my movie." And the next thing I knew, I was a baseball Fury. I was the Purple Fury.
Working with two gangs as far as character goes, one is on image and the other one is on action and intimidation. Was character pretty much of the mentality, was it different for you as far as portraying these two different characters from different background, or to work with that, or was it just pretty much point A, point B with you on whichever you chose?
Yeah, I was just winging it, to be frank. I was the baseball Fury first, and when they put that makeup and a black wig on you, you just become a different person. And I hardly had to do anything except follow Walter Hill's direction and do a lot of running night after night. And then finally we got into the bat fights, and I squared off with Michael Beck, who played Swan, leader of the Warriors.
Was the environments working within this particular scene or scenes, like, how did that actually help you out? Was that pretty much a character on its own for you, or did you actually have to add something?
It's just being there at the right place at the right time. It was eerie, it was freaky, it was night, it was hot, and it was just one of the strangest experiences I've ever had. And then you put a real Louisville slugger in all of our hands and have us go at it. It was dangerous. It was pretty tricky. We were especially afraid of getting our fingers smashed. We were blocking strikes by the other guy, and Swan and I really went at it, and he ended up beating the crap out of me. I ended up on the ground, obviously, but we did take after take of that, and there was one take when he was supposed to leap back when I swung at his stomach, and instead he ducked right into my swing, and I was able to check my swing just enough not to splatter his brains all over Riverside Park.
Even though that the working environment, or even just working with the characters themselves, was pretty strict at that time, was simple decision making or even a simple task, did that become less important too, or was it more on drive and just making it all the way through and just trying to do the best you can with what you have?
Yeah, essentially what happened is with all of the fighting, Craig Baxley, the stunt coordinator, had it all mapped out in all these notes, and he talked us through it. It's all choreographed, precisely choreographed. Especially with the bats, you don't want to mess up there. So a lot of it was just rehearsing it, getting it down, making sure you had the choreography right, and then just going through it. We'd often do a rehearsal at half speed just to make sure we had everything straight. And then we'd go ahead and, roll camera. And when they yell action, you bring in the action and flail away and hope you don't get hurt or hurt the other guy.
You were also the punk.
That's right. I mean, that was one of the highlights of the movie for me was that bathroom brawl, because I got to throw vermin into the mirrors. And that was a lot of fun. I think I punched him in the stomach first, then grabbed him and tossed him. And when it came time to shoot that, Terry Mikos, who played Vermin, is not a small man. He's probably 5'11", 165, 170 pounds. And Walter Hill was like, yeah, well, then just pick him up and throw him into the mirrors. And it's like asking someone to pick up a couch and throw it out the window. When it came time to do that, I realized, hey, I can get this guy off the ground. But in terms of tossing him across the bathroom and into the mirrors, there's no way. And Walter and Baxley kind of laughed at me and said, hey, let's bring in the trampoline. So they brought in a small trampoline, and we had a stuntman replace Vermin for the actual toss. So Gary Baxley, the cousin of the stunt coordinator, dressed up like Vermin, and in the crucial part of the scene, they cut away from Terry Mikos and they put Gary in, and he bounced off this trampoline, and I grabbed him as he was coming back up into the air, and I tossed him across the room into the mirrors, and it worked out pretty well.
It's also a tight space as far as working coordination, having to work within such a small environment, especially you're a tall guy and Vermin's a tall guy. And not only that, you got another African-American guy who's from the Punks who's also a little bit less taller. I mean, that's a lot of space to take. I mean, how was the coordination really work out? Like, how did that work for you? Did you come in last? Did you, like, what kind of order did that work out for you in this scene?
That scene was so complicated. It was broken down into dozens of camera setups. And so we'd all be standing around the craft service table, eating donuts, drinking coffee, and your name was called, and you'd go in and they'd set you up, put you at your mark, and say, okay, this is what we're doing here. Jerry Hewitt is going to get tossed through the bathroom door, and they'd kind of talk through the scene a little bit and do a slow motion rehearsal, and then shoot that. And if you weren't in the scene, you can be on the outside just kind of looking in, because it was really fascinating to watch all this stuff. And then it took, I don't know how many days, 5 days or so of shooting that to break all those pieces down, get them shot from different camera angles, do it again, and then move on to the next setup. So it was fractured in that sense. I don't think we ever did one master take of the entire brawl. It was just too complicated piece of action. If you remember, Marcelino, Rembrandt sprays our leader, Conrad Sheehan, in the face with the spray can. Just that in itself took a while to shoot. And then he hits him with a right cross, I think. And even Cowboy got some shots in that brawl. So it was crowded, it was hot and sweaty and smelly, and it was a job, and it was exhilarating at the same time.
In this time, especially in this time, was this more or less minimal? Was safety pretty much minimal, but still was able to make sure everybody was safe? And when it comes to your scenes between the Furies and this one, now again, the Punks is the most craziest one. You got small space, you got all this craziness going on, and you got Mercy smack down in the middle of this. And there's even a scene where one of the Punks gets flipped backwards into a bathroom stall, flat on his back, looked like he just straight up broke the entire thing. Like, how was the safety? Was that huge issues? Was there a lot of coordination with that as well?
Well, you do the best you can in terms of trying not to get hurt. But yeah, people got beat up. People got bruised, and I don't think there were any broken bones in that scene. Interestingly, Deborah Van Valkenburg, who played Mercy, is the one who got injured the most during the course of the movie. She broke her wrist on a subway platform. She got pulled down by a stuntman, and the guy didn't let go of her when he tripped, and she broke her wrist, and that's why she's wearing a windbreaker for the rest of the movie to hide her cast. And then later on, she got hit in the face by Michael Beck with a bat, accidentally, of course, and had a nice cut opened up over her eyes. So she got beat up more than anyone else. But yeah, stuntmen get hurt. They don't talk about it. It's part of the creed, is that you don't talk about your injuries, the pain. You just kind of suffer through it and don't let the director know. You do the best you can. And, Baxley did a good job of taking care of us, but at the same time, some of those hits were real.
Did Walter ever ask you to do anything special between the Furies and this, before and after the shots?
Not especially. I mean, at one point, Walter asked me if I was willing to fall down a set of stairs in the subway playing a cop, and I looked down these stairs. I was just like, no way, man. It were like steel treads, and there must have been 25, 30 stairs. I'm supposed to fall over backwards, and I wasn't a trained stuntman, so I just knew I'd crack my head open, so I declined that one. He wasn't too happy about it, but he ended up making me a Fury anyway. Stuntmen get hurt all the time. People don't realize this, that just because they don't talk about it that much, but there are lots of broken bones, and every old stuntman I know has a bad back, especially the ones who are involved in car crashes. I know Baxley has bad knees and a bad back from all the car crashes he did over his career. But again, it's one of those things that you just don't talk about that much. And I talk about it because I never became a stuntman. After the Warriors, I did a little bit more work like that out in Hollywood and just started focusing on my writing career.
Now, there's always the giving a chance or taking a chance for any role or any type of project, regardless of genre, big or small. But in this case, was this more of a risk for you at that time? This is a different era, same methods but different era of how filmmaking was, and stuntmen and actors, they all went through pretty much through hell in comparison to what we have now.
Yeah, what happens is there are still stuntmen getting hurt, but now with computer-generated stuff, there's a lot that's done in post, so the guys don't actually have to put their lives on the line as much. Back then, I think it was a little more loosey-goosey in terms of injury. I know that when we blew up the car, Swan throws the Molotov cocktail and blows up the car to chase off the orphan, that the guy the special effects guy, probably tripled that charge, because when that explosion went off, parts of the car went flying everywhere. Conrad Sheehan was playing one of the orphans, and he literally got blown up through the air. He didn't get injured somehow. He's a tough guy. So yeah, it was loosey-goosey. I think there's more control now. There's more concern about injury than there used to be. But if you go back and look at like those John Wayne movies, those westerns, those were real guys falling off real horses at full speed, and they would do it again and again. They did it as a regular thing, and they got hurt all the time. You know, you just didn't hear about it.
Do you feel that the appreciation of stunt work at that time was a little bit less valued, or do you feel like that was the main thing that people actually needed the most at that time? Because the Warriors was also in a run with another gang film at the same time, and Walter wanted to get the Warriors out first.
You know, it's really hard to say. When you look back about how much stunt work has been appreciated, there have been people clamoring for years that it should have its own category in the Oscars. Like they just finally added a category for casting directors that they can get Oscars now, but there's nothing for stuntmen and women, and I really think there should be. It's a really specialized craft, and these guys are literally putting their lives on the line all the time, and they don't get enough recognition. At the same time, it's part of the tough guy credo. It's like, yeah, you know, we're the strong, silent types. We do the heavy lifting, and no one even knows who we are, and that's part of the mythology of stunt work.
You being a writer, was this the motivation to write this book for the Warriors, on your experiences as well? But did this actually motivate you for your other works or future works, or was this an inspiration to just say, you know, I really wanted to get this out there and see, you know, who can learn from this as well?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I'm primarily a screenwriter. I've written a couple of books, and I just started writing some stories from the movie and posting them on Facebook with some pictures. And before I knew it, I had enough to say, wow, I got a start of a book here. So I really kind of bore down and just kind of ground my way through it, remembering all the craziness that went on and getting it down. And then also some of my Hollywood experiences as a screenwriter. I did a lot of sports work as a second unit director and choreographer. So I talk about some of those experiences as well. The book is really being well received because people are ready for it. It's real. It's in your face. It's profane at times, and I just really get into inside action of how things happen on a movie set, and it's chaos very often, and I wanted to reflect that in the book, and I think that the reader really gets a sense of just how crazy movie making really is.
Do you ever want to see your screenwriting works as well as your authorship be almost in the same cultural aspect as what the Warriors did for you? You were a part of it as well, big or small. It became a cultural, almost an icon now. Everybody knows that, and almost yearly they go to Coney Island dressed as the Warriors, dressed as opposite gangs, but they all have a good time. So how much of effect does this really give you when, after just this one project, for your other works outside of this realm? Did this become something more? Did it become something that, okay, I did something back then that was a part of my chapter, but this is something, a whole new level, what you can expect from me type of attitude?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I started getting invited to these fan conventions 2-3 years ago, and they're really cultural phenomenon where tens of thousands of people come out to meet their favorite characters from movies and TV shows. And it's amazing how the Warriors has just become a more and more iconic cult classic, because fathers are turning their sons onto it, sons are turning their sons onto it, so suddenly you've got 3 generations of people who know the movie and who want to come out and meet the cast. It's helped me in ways in terms of just legitimizing my history of being in the movies and working in movies. And now with the book coming out, it's starting to catch fire. People are catching on to it and buying it and going, wow, like I haven't read a book in a while, and this book really works for me. It's one of those things. I wrote a book for guys who don't read books. It's short, it's fast, it's got a lot of funny stuff in it, and just a lot of real behind-the-scenes action, and people are eating it up.
Do you feel that films like this, and many other films like this who have succeeded in what they pertain, do you feel success should be preserved and not be, in other terms, molested?
There's been a lot of talk about making a remake of The Warriors, and most of the fans are really set against that, as am I. I think it'd be a mistake because it's such a classic and you could only screw it up, I think. So it's one of those things where, you got to look back and just respect the work that was done and appreciate it. To hope that people make new, fresh ideas and keep the whole process moving.
And oftentimes they want to do a spin-off, do sequels, do this or that, or they want to take a spin-off of a certain character, a main character. Let's say if they want to do that from the Warriors on and on. And honestly, as time keeps going on, it's not going to age very well when you take an existing character from 1979 and completely different time era. That means you have to use guns. That means you have to use bigger explosions. That means you have to put more vulgarity, more sexual nudity, and all this other stuff. And that's not what its original intent was ever been. Not just the Warriors, but many other films who have been remade, rebooted, and just kind of just repackaged and basically recycled. And the Warriors, in my opinion, should not be recycled in any shape or form.
I agree with you, with one exception, that Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who did Hamilton on Broadway, is going to make a musical of the Warriors. And I actually think that's a cool idea, to bring it onto the stage. It'll be totally different from the movie. I don't think people have to worry about the movie being sullied in any way. And we'll see what he comes up with. But in terms of a remake or a sequel or a prequel, I don't know. I think they should just leave it alone.
Do you feel like you should never look back, or do you feel like remember it and move on and to succeed on your own rather than to be coined for what you've succeeded in the past?
I have no problem with people looking back and people knowing that, I was part of this cult classic, but we're living in the present, right? So I'm just pushing my own stuff. I've got new projects that I'm working on, and I'm pushing the book out there. I'm hoping people listening to this right now will go find it. purplefury.net. You can get a copy there or go to Amazon and find a copy there. The book is called Purple Fury, Rumbling with the Warriors. Yeah, so I'm just kind of focused on putting the book out there. I got a couple new screenplays that I'm pushing and just getting on with my life.
And there you have it, everybody. That is actor, stuntman, and author Rob Ryder.
Okay, well, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Everybody take care now and take care of each other.